Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes in the great Mark Kelly of Mark Kelly's Marathon. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well. Thank you for that nice introduction. Uh, Good to be here.
My pleasure. Great to have you here. Congratulations on this album. I'm really excited to talk about the genesis of this album and your career. But first, of course, this is an impossible time in the world, and I don't ever want to lose the human part of things as much as I care about music journalism. So again, I hope you're well. I hope your family is well, your bandmates, anyone related to you in your field. It's such a challenging time in the world, and I just think it's very easy to lose sight of the bigger picture when we're focused on the small thing we need to do today.
Yeah, I have to admit, I feel a little bit guilty of the fact that we've actually had a good year this year, really, because with Marillion, we would normally be touring some time of the year. We usually do something every year, but this year, for some reason, we didn't have any touring booked apart from the Cruise to the Edge, which is a cruise that was due to happen in April. So it was going to be just a writing and recording year for us anyway. And thankfully, I haven't had anybody that I'm close to had been affected too badly by COVID. So, and I took it as an opportunity to make this album because it was pretty much recorded during the lockdown back in from March through to July.
Right. And again, I'm super pleased that, don't feel guilty. I think, we have to celebrate the little wins or we lose our lives. We lose our passion and our future. We have to believe we're going to get through this together collectively and don't feel bad. I tell that to everybody. If you got something worth celebrating, hang on to it because a lot of people don't, and don't feel bad. Obviously, there's also gloating, which no one is doing,
No, no,
hopefully.
no.
None of us are taking birthday vacations on a private island with our closest 50 friends or anything dumb like that. So it's okay. I think you have a record to be proud of. I'm super excited. I'm so thankful to have new music. I'm sure you're thankful to have music to make and play and share. And we're going to be okay. That's my general belief.
Same here. Yeah, I think with this vaccines or number of vaccines on the about to be made public, and I think things are definitely going to improve in the coming year, which is great. We've got some tour dates booked for Marillion at the back end of next year. So I was a bit nervous about putting those tickets on sale a few weeks back, but now I'm like thinking, no, this is going to happen. This is looking very positive, especially for
Right.
the back end of 21.
Right, and the industry you need those. I know the regular fan doesn't understand this probably, but we need those venues to have holds. We need tours to get booked. We need to have plans. We need to have festivals to look forward to. And if they don't happen, they don't happen. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm thankful for music and I'm looking forward to music. I even joked with somebody. I was like, imagine that first time back at the pub or the small club show is going to be like Vikings pillaging in a farm, right? Like we're going to go nuts,
Yeah,
probably
absolutely.
drink too much, buy too much merch, celebrate too hard. I was going to be so happy to just get it back. But yeah, this album is wonderful, and I'm glad you mentioned about making it specifically during the lockdown. So did you have some of this material written already, or this was all written this year?
No, it evolved slowly over a number of years. I mean, I've said that I first started thinking about a solo album about 25 years ago, but I wasn't really serious. And I wish I'd never mentioned it because for years people would say, "Oh, what about that solo album you were going to make?" And I say, "Oh God!" But it was a friend of mine really that sort of got the ball rolling on this project because he said, "Oh, I'd like to write some lyrics for you," and I'm like, "I didn't realize he was a lyric writer." And because he's a barrister, that's what he does for a living. And he said, "Yeah, if you send me some music, so let's see what I can write." And then I sent him a few bits of music. Actually, there were some bits that were unused by Marillion, things that I'd come up with in the sort of Marillion writing context. We do a lot of jamming, and there's thousands of things, well over 1,000 good ideas, I would say, that have never been used. Just because we pick the things that suit what we're doing at the time, and there's things that just don't make it, or things we'd love to use but we don't find a way of using them. So there was like two or three things, and they became the sort of building blocks for Amelia. And he wrote that lyric first, I think, and then once I got that, I was like, this actually is quite interesting. I think this could really work. But this was about 2 years ago, and then I asked my nephew if he was interested in doing a bit of work on it with me, because he plays guitar, and he didn't say that he was a bass player, but I said, you can have a go at bass, and we need a bass player, you know. So he ended up being the bass player on the album, and he did some sort of drum programming and stuff. And basically we worked the songs up into an arrangement. It was about half the material was written in that way. And then I thought, right, I need a singer. So it was like a process, you know. Each time I got a bit further with it, then I would not do anything for a few months, and then Guy, the lyric writer, would say, "Come on, what are we doing on this album? Come on, let's do more," you know. So it was that, you know, him constantly not hassling me, but you know what I mean. Somebody else having, you know, putting a bit of pressure on, because I, you know, if it was just me on my own, there would always be something more important. You know, the solo album was always the last thing that I would feel that I had the time for, you know, not because I didn't want to do it, but there was always things I felt that needed, you know, more attention. Um, so I spent a year looking for a singer. I tried a few people, nobody seemed right. And then sort of in desperation, really, I started trawling through lots of these unknown bands really on Spotify. There's like thousands of bands on Spotify. It's tragic, because you think these guys are probably never going to be heard by anybody, apart from their family and friends. You know, they'll have like less than 1,000 streams of each of their songs, and you think, well, there's probably some great talent there. So I started, you know, spent a bit of time searching, and then one day I came across a band called Big Blue Ball, and the singer, I thought, this guy's good. This is really interesting. Wow, he's great. Sounds a lot like Peter Gabriel. So I did some checking, and it turns out it was Peter Gabriel. So I'm like, oh no, start again. But and I told this story in an interview to a Marillion fan club magazine. And when it was published, a friend of mine read it and called me up, and he said, I saw your interview, you're looking for a singer. I know just the guy. And he said, he's got a bit of a Gabriel quality to his voice, you might like him. And this was Ollie Smith. And so that was how I found him. He's not from a sort of progressive rock background at all. He's from more of a pop rock indie sort of background, really. So when I threw this song Amelia at him, which was like 10 minutes of music and about 4 pages of A4, you know, words, he was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this? And I said, just do whatever you like. Just have a go, you know? And it took weeks. I heard nothing. I thought, oh, well, never mind. The guy's not interested. And then he sent me the vocals that he did, which was like with the backing vocals and, you know, the big Amelias at the end of that song. He did all that in that first audition, I suppose you would call it. And I was like, God, he's doing great harmonies, and it was perfect. So we were sort of pretty much on the way then. So we did some demo recording in the Marillion studio, a few songs, but I always imagined that we'd go in a studio and record the album, you know, like most bands do. I had 2 guitarists lined up by then. One who was recommended to me from Steve Rothery, our guitarist, not because he knew him, he just saw him on YouTube and said, oh, there's this guy John Cordy. Because I said, hey Steve, do you know any good guitarists? And he said, yeah, there's a guy I saw on YouTube, he's really good. I said, so do you know him? He's like, no, I never met him, but he's a good player, check him out. So I'm like, okay. So it was just sort of random events almost that brought us all together. Henry, the drummer, I knew from years before. We both played on an album together in 2012, so that's how I knew him. But then when the whole lockdown thing happened, March, April, I said to everybody, how do you like the idea of recording your parts at home and sending them to me, and I'll try and put the whole thing together here. And that's what we did. So it worked out really well.
Necessity is the mother of invention. And it's interesting whenever somebody, I'm a music journalist for a long time, and a member of a band goes solo and it becomes very much their thing. But it seems like you went to great lengths to really put together a band. As much as it's your project and your name is on it, it really is a band. It's a band feeling album. It doesn't sound like I'm finally free from the shackles of whatever thing and I'm making my own thing. This really seems like a really well put together, thoughtful project.
Well, I'm really into songs. I don't, I like instrumental passages, but I do, at the end of the day, like a song, and I like good melodies and strong melodies and harmonies, and the sound of a band. I didn't want it to be like a keyboard player's album being real self-indulgent with loads of keyboard solos and stuff. Although it is quite keyboard-led, as you can imagine, I feel like I'm giving everybody in the band a chance to express themselves as well. You know, it's like I like everybody to bring their own ideas to the table, but at the end of the day, it's nice to be able to be the one that decides how it all fits together and what gets used and what doesn't. You know, without any arguments. You know, which is
Right.
not
And
that
it's
we have that many arguments in Marillion, but occasionally we have disagreements, and it can lead to friction. But you know, that's
right.
so
And it's certainly going to be a different vibe when it's your band. And at the
absolutely.
end of the day, you drove this process. So yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's healthy. Also, it'll, probably when you go back, like you said, you have things planned. When you go back and continue to write with Marillion, it'll be a different, you'll be back to an old feeling, something else.
Yeah. Well, we've actually been working for the last 3 or 4 months on the next Marillion album. So you know, and it is a different way of working. I think it takes longer because we go to great lengths to find musical passages, musical ideas, and you know, that we all like, or that we all really like, so that we're all enthusiastic. Because it's in the past we may have, you know, recorded songs that one or two members of the band was really enthusiastic about, and the others were like, I'm not so bothered, but I'll do it anyway. You know, so we've got to the stage now where, you know, we haven't got that many more albums to make, unfortunately. You know, everybody in the band's in their 60s apart from me, and I'm going to be 60 next year. So you have to face reality. If we're making an album every 4 or 5 years, there aren't going to be many Marillion albums left. So we need to make sure the ones we make are as good as they can be. So that takes longer.
Nice. Well done. Well done. So yeah, this album, let's talk for a second about, yeah, Amelia's wonderful, wonderful suite to begin the record, and then the closer is to the 2051 suite, if you will, that a collection of tracks. And again, like each of them are, 10 minutes of music and then almost 20 minutes of music. And yeah, it's quite a journey. I would expect no less, but really fabulous, well put together, thoughtful stuff. I love imaginative and great songwriting. And I think in progressive music shows the best of us and the best of the genre. So this is great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to, you know, with this album, I sort of had an idea in my head that I wanted it to be. I was being a bit nostalgic, I suppose. I wanted it to be like the records I used to listen to when I was young, and it was like vinyl. And I wanted a gatefold sleeve with a painting that covered the whole of the sleeve, you know, and imagery from the lyrics in the painting, and the music to take you on a journey. That's what I was imagining. So you know, to open with Amelia and close with 2051, it just felt like it was, you know, a musical journey, hopefully, that people would be willing to give 45 minutes to. You know, there was actually another 3 songs that we wrote, but these 5 I felt worked the best together. You know, the other 3 maybe on the next one. So we'll see.
Nice, good to have leftover material. I did. It's funny that you talked about Ollie and what he brings to the table. I did hear the Gabriel thing a little bit, and maybe the music kind of lends itself to that very '70s Peter Gabriel or early '80s solo Gabriel stuff that I love. But I definitely got the indie rock vibes on some of the tracks also, and what he's able to do with a phrase. So if you hadn't told me about trying to, him fitting other lyrics to his style or change, maybe adapting to what you do as a writer, or the whole group does as writers. He really turns in a marvelous performance.
Yeah, I think a few people have noticed that he's quite versatile in his approach as well. He doesn't always sound the same. It's like, you know, he's got the way of singing Amelia, and then there's a more of like an indie sound, like you said on This Time, for example. So, and then with When I Fell, he's got quite a soulful voice, which suits the music, you know. So he's yeah, really pleased with the fact that I found Ollie, and he's just so musical as well, which is great.
Nice. As you said, you sort of wrote most of this now and had a few things hanging around that you never got to finish. And you said there's some things left over, perhaps for another record. But what I'm interested in is, in what, as of what you left off versus what you kept on. Obviously, we're hearing the best of it. Is that I find that any musician, as they get on in their career, it becomes harder to self-edit. So it sounds like you're very keen on self-editing and making sure the best of what you can represent comes out. Because I find that I see a dip over time in some artists, and you seem to be very concerned with that, which is great.
Yeah, I'm actually the opposite. I think I've always been quite critical of anything that I do or anything that Marillion does, to be honest. And you know, I've got a reputation for in the band for being the one that says, "Oh, that song's shit," or you know, I'm very critical. But it may be part of the reason why it's taken me 25 years to make an album. I don't know, because I've not plagued with self doubt, but I'll work on something for a while and then I'll be like, it's not really that good. I'll do something else, you know. But sorry about the pinging. I'm not even sure where it's coming from. I thought I muted my
No
phone.
problem. These devices are
Oh my God.
taking over.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from. Anyway, the so that's but to be fair, the three songs that didn't make it on this album, one of them wasn't finished, and I love it, and I really want to finish it. So, and the other two, just the style wasn't quite suitable, really. But that doesn't mean that I don't like them. I do. So I think they're going to be good.
Nice. And then I, I I saw that you guys recorded an entire live performance of the album for the bonus edition DVD separate thing. And you could not have predicted the live streaming world, or it was just sort of taking flight probably around the time you finished the album. Any thoughts of a full album performance live, some sort of thing? I know the technology is not quite there for everybody yet.
It was the reason we did that. I wanted to have something visual, some video of the songs, just because we live in a YouTube world, and you need that really. So my initial idea was to get the guys together on a stage with some lights and maybe even do some sort of semi playback type thing. And because I didn't know what it was going to be like. Some of us had never even met each other. I'd never met John the guitarist. We certainly never played together in a room. So I was like basically trying to hedge my bets a little bit and think, okay, well, we could do something that maybe looks visually good with the songs from the album. I looked into the cost of it and I was like, oh my God, that's really expensive. For that money, we could go to real world and do some actual recording and film there, which is a nice environment to film. So there wasn't much availability on time because everything had just opened back up again. Everybody was trying to get in their studios. So we got 2 days and we all got together. And what came out was actually, for 2 days, for a band that's never even met each other or never rehearsed together, I thought it was amazing. Everybody had learned all their parts, and it gelled immediately. It was a really good atmosphere. We captured some great stuff on tape and film. I mean, there's a few. I mean, if anybody watching closely will see there's some edits because there's edits between the musical takes and there's edits between the film, and sometimes you can see my 1 minute I'm wearing one top, then I'm wearing a different top because it was filmed across 2 days. But it was live with some editing. But to do a live, what you're talking about, a live stream, I think it would be possible. I think we would need to have some rehearsal, because the good thing about that situation was if something went wrong, and it did quite a few times, we could stop and start again. We were just recording. So, but to do a live stream would require a bit more practice, rehearsal, preparation. But I think now I would hold off until we could actually play in front of an audience. I think it would be really, really cool to play to an audience. Our first gig, wherever that might be, I think will be something special, hopefully, but we'll see.
Nice, nice. Well, we look forward to that day, and again, I'm excited to hear that those Marillion dates are on the horizon, and hopefully some dates for Mark Kelly's marathon. Yeah, I didn't want to lose the opportunity to mention that next year will mark the 40th year of you in Marillion, and so that is, for anything, any career, that is incredible. Any kind of, obviously it's not here yet, and there's no time to be sentimental in an unsentimental hard world this year, but I just wanted to know if you had any thoughts about that time frame, and looking back on it at all, any memories of the earliest memories of joining the band, and here you are today.
Well, funnily enough, I was thinking about this the other day because I did an interview with somebody in Cambridge, and my first ever gig with Marillion was in Cambridge, and it will be almost 40 years to the day that we go back to Cambridge, because one of the shows that we're playing next year in November is in Cambridge. So I was thinking, oh my God. So it's like come full circle, and 40 years later playing in the same town as my first ever show. Um, I've got really fond memories of the very early days of Marillion, especially the days leading up to us signing a contract and the excitement around the very first album recording, and because it was all new and it was also, it was what we all dreamed about. We played some fun gigs, we had some good times, we played some terrible gigs. We had places where we were places where we drove for 4 hours to get to a pub and play to two people. I mean, I'm literally not joking. And I can remember this one time. Yeah, there was two people in the audience. So Fish just said to the guys, "What would you like to hear?" And they just told us what they wanted us to play, and we played it. So back those days, we probably only had about an hour's worth of material anyway. So it wasn't like they could select from 19 albums, which is what we've got now. But it was fun.
Nice. And the great thing is, Marillion is still as vital today as they have always been. The last few records have been some of my favorites of the entire run of the career. So I'm really grateful for that and looking forward to new music. Just as a closing thought, Mark, and again, you've been terrific. I really appreciate you. Of course, wanted to ask you, beside making your own music and writing music for the future, anything else you've been appreciating, books you've read, any good music you've heard this year, or things you're looking forward to in the new year, not your own, that you'd like to share with us as we reflect on 2020?
I have been starting to listen to some new music. There's been quite a lot of stuff come out this year. I think that there's a band called Arabs in Aspic that have got an album which I really like. It's a sort of progressive rock, but quite mellow progressive rock, really. They're from Oslo, I think, somewhere in Scandinavia. Um, there's some good music around at the moment, but I can't think. You know what? I used to read so much, and I don't know. These days, I struggle to find the time to read. I should do more, to be honest, reading. But I find that the distractions of devices. You think you can read a book on your phone on the Kindle. It's virtually impossible. It's just too. It would take a superhuman to not be distracted by all the other things that you got on the phone. But yeah. That's my excuse.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, those little hits of dopamine also, they tickle our brains, but they also make it hard to focus. Mark, you are lovely. I really appreciate hearing your story and listening to this record's wonderful. I really appreciate getting a chance to chat with you. And please stay safe and be well. And we look forward to new music from you in person, hopefully by the end of next year.
You stay safe too. Thanks, Keith. Take care.